Okay. Okay, it begins now. So, welcome back to In the Fray. My name is Edgar.
I'm Melissa.
And today we will be having the first of many. We'll be having our first guest on the podcast. And this is also our first video portion of the audio podcast. So, a lot of first. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our guests to introduce themselves.
Hi guys, my name is Maria. Thank you guys for having me here. It's a pleasure to be your first guest. So
For sure. And since it being a first time having a guest and the first time being on video and whatnot, so apologize to the viewers. It could get maybe a little bit awkward, or we may miss a few steps here and there, but we promise to do our best to try to make it fluid as possible.
Yep.
Okay, so the topic that I wanted to talk about in this episode was the clash of cultures in while growing up in the United States. The clash of cultures being a traditional Mexican household, and also the American culture, right?
From a woman's point of view.
From a woman's point of view, for sure. I know me being an immigrant, here in the United States, growing up, my view is certainly different. So I'm curious to see if there's some similarities, for sure some differences, but I'd just like to get to have a little bit more information from that point of view. So let's begin with that. Let's start with as a child and kind of work your way up in, to adulthood and whatnot. How was it you being raised in a traditional Mexican household, but still going to the school system, and that's a whole different culture. Am I right?
that is right. So growing up, I'm also an immigrant here in the U.S. I was brought down to the U.S. at I was 2 years old. So I want to say school-wise, it wasn't so hard. Maybe at first, just trying to learn the language.
Mm-hmm.
But growing up was kind of, it wasn't too hard because I learned that I was able to learn the language quick, and I was very young going to school here. So I think that's what helped me, getting adapted to living in the States, coming from Mexico. I think, growing up, it was, back in my days growing up, it was just outdoor playing in the yard. That was it. My parents were new to the States too. So I didn't know a lot of what was offered out here. So it was just more of a going to school, coming home, going to school, coming home. So growing up, it wasn't too bad for me on my point of view. I think when everything started changing was as I became an adult and I started having my family. I think that is when the hardest part was for me, because like you said, coming from a traditional Mexican culture, is a lot of things that I was married really young. Maybe I should start with that. I was married really young at 16. So I really didn't, I spent most of my time, I've been with my husband since, so we've been together for a long time. So we really grew up together. So I really didn't have a lot of time to, I guess, be a rebel teenager, because at 16, I was already living on my own, trying to survive. And I think that is when reality hit. And I think that's when it became hard for me, because I was young, and I also moved to a different city. So everything was new for me. My husband comes from a very Mexican traditional household. So us trying to, start a new life together, being very young. And I want to say that's when the issues became, because we were young, trying to we were young, trying to start a new living, trying to learn everything all at once. Everything just kind of hit us at once. So I continued my school. I continued going to school, and that was strike number one because, coming from a traditional Mexican household, once you move in and you start making a living, you're stuck at home raising kids. So that is when it hit me. It was a big problem that I wanted to continue with school.
Now, did you want to continue with high school or after school? Or after
High school, just getting through high school.
So
I was 16 years old.
They didn't want you to finish high school.
No,
Oh,
no,
really?
no, no. No, my parents, when they found out I moved in, no, they said, this is it for you. You have to drop out of school.
Oh my.
And now your life is going to be dedicated to what your husband wants you to do. That was basically what I was told.
It was just you and your husband, though. You didn't have any kids yet.
No, we didn't have any kids.
Okay.
No, we didn't. It was just me and him, both 16 years old.
And they still just didn't want you to finish school.
No, they didn't.
What did they want you to do all day?
Well, to them, it was I had to stay home and I guess stay home, cook and clean, stay home, cook and clean, because I didn't have any kids. It wasn't no kids I needed to tend to, but it was just, staying home, cooking and cleaning, because the woman stays home and the guy goes out to work. Mm-hmm. So my husband, he had to as well. He did leave school. He started working, and that was one of the biggest battles. Not with me and him. We were a little bit more open-minded because he was brought here at a young age too. But just getting through with family, making them understand that, there's more to life. There's more opportunities here that are giving than just staying home, being a traditional Mexican woman, that you stay home and you cook and you clean. So I think that was the beginning of one of the toughest, I want to say, battles for us, because it was always questions about, why are you going to school? You're a married woman, I want to say maybe close-minded. There's really not much that they thought I could have done because I already had moved in with somebody.
Well, you had, a couple strikes going against you. One, you were a woman to begin with. Two, like you said, you decided to get married, and then three, while you guys did not have family, I'm sure you were expected to help raise, whether it's, your husband's sister's kids or whatever community you belong, to help raise those kids. Am I right?
That is right.
As a way of like training.
Yes, a way of training. Yeah, yes, basically. I was lucky that, my husband he had younger siblings, but they weren't to the point where I had to raise or anything. But I did have to stay home for maybe my second semester. But that was just, we went through the whole process of getting everything situated. And after that, I decided to come back to school on my junior year. And from there forward, I moved on. I graduated from high school. I got my high school diploma. I stayed home. We stayed home. I stayed home from some time because we went back to, traditions. I had to stay home even though I went to high school. That was it for me. There was really anything else I could do. I had already fought this battle through high school, and now it was like, okay, well, you're done with school. That's it. You got your high school diploma. That's it. But me, I always had bigger dreams. I always wanted to be something else. I never saw myself just staying home and doing nothing, I was very fortunate. My husband, the big supporter. He always supported me. We have grown together, so we've been there for each other. So at this point, as an adult, I think the hardest battles have been just trying. I don't think it's been more with society with other people, I think it's been more in our family, just trying to have them understand that, this is a different world now. There's more opportunities. There's more to what a woman can do. After I started having my kids, I went through college. I had 2 kids. I put myself through a short-term college, and I got my degree, my certificate, and that was another storm that broke through because everybody, you know, I was criticized as, why do you keep wanting to push to go to school? You're married women, now you have kids, your job is to stay home.
Mm-hmm.
So I think on my part, that has been the hardest, not in society as much because, we've come a long way. Women are seen a lot different now. But for me, it was more in my family, in my close family, with my, coming out from a traditional Mexican household. That was the hardest part. Having them understand that, life is different here. Life is different. Women here, we work. We can support ourselves. We don't need from a man to take care of us. We can put ourselves through school. And I think until this day, that is the hardest part for me, having them understand that so many things are different. We're not meant to just be staying home and tend the household and the kids and cook and clean. So I think for me, that has been the hardest part. I am the oldest of the family. I am the oldest of grandchild. I am the oldest daughter. So I think that's why maybe it was a little bit hard for me, because I had to break through those barriers. Because I was the first. I was the first to come out. I was the first to do a lot of things that, my parents were not used to. My parents came here at a young age too. And as I said, I was the first. So as I was growing up, I guess they were learning as much as we were, all 3 of us as a family were learning what the States were. Coming from Mexico, there's not much you can do. So my parents and I everything was new to us. Everything was new. But yeah, like I said, I think the hardest part is as an adult now, and not with society itself, but just breaking through that Mexican culture has been the toughest for me.
I definitely agree with that. I know from my point of view, from a male point of view, I mean, even growing up, when we talk about this all the time, where, like, for me, as far as education was concerned, high school was it. Like, if you can just get to high school and get your high school diploma, you've got it made. Like, you can have a job anywhere in the United States and you will make all the money that you want. But once I graduated high school, man, well, even before I graduated high school, there was a large, like, pressure still that was kind of being thrown my way to go find a wife, try to go find a job that was going to pay the bills, settle down, and that's it, and do that, and but it was funny too, because I remember growing up, I could see that in my friends. A lot of my friends that I grew up with, that as soon as they were turning 16, 17, 18, they were starting to get married. And by the time we got to like 20 years old, those guys are talking like, back in my day. I was like, dude, what are you talking about back in your day? You're like, you barely learn how to wipe your butt. Like, settle down there, man. And but that, I remember that. And even trying to date like other traditional Mexican girls and women that, or that came from a very traditional Mexican background, was like that. It was like, if we get married, like, everything that I'm doing, I'm gonna stop doing. And It's your job to go take care of the money. You go and do that, and I'm just gonna stay home and raise the kids, whether we have kids or not.
Yes, yes, that I think whenever with me, I think on from my point of view, I don't think this might sound kind of crazy, but me being moving out at 16 to move in with my boyfriend, it wasn't really, I guess, a shocker because coming from a traditional Mexican family, they marry very young.
Yeah.
So it's not something that it's like, oh, because I got asked that all the time, and your parents didn't say anything. Well, it wasn't that they were mean and didn't care. It's just that that's how they were brought up as well. You know, if we go back, my parents were very much younger than I was. So that's kind of
And
what they did.
yeah, and a lot of times, I have this conversation too with other people is that like quinceañera, like a quinceañera is just not a birthday party. It's a way of to socialize, your daughter to the world to let them know that she has now come of age, and now she is, in a way, she's now childbearing, and she is eligible to be married, and she is now suitable for that. And at least that's what I feel like as far as that's concerned, like the underlying meaning of the quinceañera now, or at least back in the day. And because, like you said, all of our parents, their parents, they were all married by the time they were 14, 15 years old.
Yes, they were. And having kids at 14, 15 years old, And so, I mean, I was an only child for 9 years, but I was always around. I mean, I grew up, everything. Like I said, I didn't experience, my parents didn't take me to the movies every other weekend or every weekend like my other friends did. But I know I don't blame them. I mean, they were new to the country. And, so I never didn't explore anything new until I was out and about on my own. That's when I was like, whoa, there's more out here. There's more to the world than what we are raised in, you know? And back, with the quinceañera, yes, there's so many things that I was raised up with that my coming from a Mexican tradition family but I try to change a lot. There's a lot of traditions I want to keep with my kids, but there's also a lot of traditions that it's I don't want to keep because it's not right. It's not right. It's not I think they use it as it's like a protocol. It's like, this is what you do, this is what you're expected, and this is what's going to be done. Mm-hmm. And I don't want my kids to grow up in that. I want them to know my Mexican background and I want them to know my culture. But there's a lot of things that I don't want to bring along. Mm-hmm. And that's what has caused a lot of controversial, like I said, a lot of controversial, because they're like, wait a minute, you're doing what?
Yeah.
Why are you doing this? Why are you not doing that?
In saying that, it almost feels like without people saying it to you, it's like you're the traitor.
Yes.
Because, again, all these topics, we've talked about them, in the past, that's how I felt too. And I've actually had people say that to my face, where like, you are a traitor to your people because you don't do X, Y, Z, and you don't say this, this, and this. It's like you're a full-blooded, Mexican, and we never hear you talk about, brown power this and brown power that or whatever. It's like you're a traitor. You're a potato. It's what they used to tell me all the time when I was younger. And like you said, it was just some of the culture aspects of it I did not want to be a part of. Yes. Like I said, I do want to continue, my heritage is Mexican culture, right? And so I'm very proud of that. And I do that in a way that I feel it's positive towards that, or positive towards the things that I believe should be paid attention to, and I try not to talk about or do the other things that are, in my opinion, negative, as you mentioned. But Yeah, so I was gonna say that was kind of one of my question was, about, the quinceañera, you being married at such a young age, and you know, most people in the United States would be like, "You're still a child."
Yeah. Did your mom and dad have to give you permission to get married then?
Well, I really didn't get officially married until I was 21. I just moved in. So we were not officially married. But in our culture,
Yeah,
yes, in our culture, when you leave and you move in with your boyfriend, that's it, you're married. No papers need to be signed, you know?
yeah,
So, and I always get corrected because of that. You weren't married. But in my culture,
you are.
I was.
Yeah.
there was nothing else that had to be done.
Yeah, because talking to you, your grandma, uh, same thing with her. I actually got to see the marriage certificate, and it was off by a couple of years
Yes. Mm.
from what they were always telling me when they got married. And I was like, well, you said you were married this year, but this paper says it's like 5 years later. And they're like, oh, that's just, don't even pay attention to that. That's just a technicality. We were married at this age. And, and even talking to my dad is like, but I thought you said you were married on this year. And he's like, don't even pay attention to that paper. That's a bunch of BS.
Hmm.
So
Yes, I didn't officially get married. I was moved in, but in my culture, it was, you're married. So my husband and I were brought up in the same culture, so we were married. But it wasn't until I was of age that we actually, got everything, did all the paperwork and everything. But um, I like I said, I'm very open with my kids. I try to explain to my kids, and we try to teach them, different. I tell them, I mean, I'm very proud of being Mexican. I love my heritage. I love it. And my kids love being in Mexico. We love, vacationing in our hometown. But it's like I sit here and I explain, there's so many things that I didn't know when I was your age. It was so many things that and like I said, I don't blame my parents. My parents didn't know any better, and this is the way they were brought up. So everything was new to them. As it was new to me, it was new to them. Um, but I try to teach this to my kids, and I tell them, there's so many opportunities out there. There's so many things that you can do. I don't put a limit to what they can do or they can't do, or because you have Mexican parents, you're allowed to do this and you're allowed to do that, because really, that's how I was. Well, you can't do that because you're Mexican, or, us Mexicans don't do that.
mhm.
This is something that people from the US do, but we don't do that because
Yep.
we are Mexican, or because you're a girl.
Yep.
It is in the Mexican culture. It is a lot. You can't because you are a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And I do get criticized a lot, like you say, because I break a lot of, I break a lot. I've broken a lot of our American traditions and cultures. Being a woman, I mean, I don't live in the same city my parents do. So just by me getting up and driving myself to come visit my parents, instead of them being happy and saying, oh, our daughter's here, it would be offensive to them, because it's like, wait a minute, you did what? You drove yourself here?
Mm-hmm.
You can't do this. You're a woman. Where is your husband?
Mm-hmm.
What is he gonna say?
Ah,
So
so,
yes,
so does your parents question your children? Like, what do they think about your children making decisions that they make? Do they tell them that they shouldn't be doing that also?
um, my parents don't question my kids, but they are, how can I say this? They won't question my kids on what they do. They will question me more because they think I'm at fault for what they do, because you're not raising them the right way. So they won't question.
Today, they're telling you that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this day,
Wow.
yes.
And that's one thing that
They're just hanging on to that, aren't they?
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. And that's one thing that, I really try to explain a lot to my friends, or anybody that will ask me about it, like the difference and stuff. And it's like, man, it is so hard. He's like, it's hard for a male to kind of grow up and not be part of the whole expectations, and just kind of, you're growing up with the more American culture side and not so much the Mexican culture side, like as far as expectations. But it's like, man, it's a whole different world if you were to be a female growing up, uh,
Yes.
in the United States. Because I know a lot of friends of mine that once we graduated high school, they got married, like you were talking about, and I could no longer say hi to them.
Oh, yes.
You know,
Yes. Yes.
I
Because you're, yes.
yeah, I could no longer say hi to them because one, that's rude because they're married,
Hmm.
and if I were to say hi to them by themselves, that was even a huge
To the
no-no.
females?
Yeah,
Yes.
they had to,
Yes.
like, their husband had to be present, and their husband had to approve of me saying hello.
Yes.
Does the guilt that's laid on you for most of your life, does that not affect your parents? Like, do they not care like how much, guilt and just, I don't want to say trauma, but I mean, man, like every decision you're making, you're getting some negative, reaction from it. Like every decision you're making.
Yeah. It's like it's never anything right.
Yeah, so
You do or you don't.
that's
But I
your nerve.
think that's another thing. They don't show affection.
Yeah.
So they don't show affection. So, you will never see, I mean, as I think back, I won't see, very rarely I saw any affection coming from
Yeah.
my dad or my mom to us or to their parents. It's a lot of respect that is demanded, and it is a lot of respect that is given
And expect.
by, but there's no affection. So it's kind of like, um, once you grow up in it, it's hurtful because it has taken me a lot to
Yeah.
surpass that. And to this day, it hurts my feelings, but it's hard because
Mhm.
I can't blame them because they were raised the same way, So that's where the hard part comes in, because there has to be a point, like for me, there has to be there's a point where I had to say, okay, well, I don't want to be arguing with my family, my parents all the time, but I don't want to live by that Mexican culture. So the best thing to do is, um, it's hard to even be around them all the time, because here I come with, my American side, as they call it, and my new traditions, and it's offensive to them. So I've learned to kind of just, I stay away. And when I can, it's hide by, but keep it very simple, because you can't really talk or open up too much because it'll be offensive,
Mhm.
Well,
you know?
I find it odd that they find it offensive when they're the ones that brought you here. You know what I mean? Like they're the ones that brought you to the
Yeah.
United States, and they are acting like they're surprised that
Well,
you're coming into the American
yeah.
culture and thinking things differently. But yeah, I know that would hurt your feelings, and that's a long time to have to deal with that. But yeah, you just have to be like, that's on them. That's their, problem.
And that's what it comes down to, unfortunately. um I mean, there's nothing I can do or say to change that. That's just the way it's going to be. So those are the cycles I try to break with my kids. I try to, don't bring that. With my kids, it's more, I'm very affectionate with my kids. I'm very open-minded with my kids in every aspect, because that's another thing. you would never catch me talking to my dad about a boyfriend or, I mean, anything in general, because you just don't do that. You just don't touch those subjects. You know, it's hard for a woman to open up to the mom. Can you imagine a woman trying to talk to the dad about, hey, my boyfriend did this, or, you know, don't even bring up sex,
So
because
what
that's
about,
just,
hey,
Yeah.
so what about sex? So they expect you, or it's not surprising that you get married at 16 or 15 or whatever, but then they don't have a talk with you about sex at all?
no, that is something you do not touch. No.
You don't talk about it. It's
Oh,
oh no, technical difficulties.
it's state you learn school,
Oh, okay.
you
You
know?
back? So we lost you there for a second.
Oh, okay.
You just left off like something that's not talked about, and that was the last bit.
Yes. So back to with the mamas and dad, speaking of sex, you know, it's a topic you don't touch. And I think maybe because my parents didn't come to school here and they came here at an older age, it was their perspective is this is something she's going to learn in school, or this is something that's going to be taught in school, you know? So they never touched it. They never talked about it. I mean, I mean, that's just a subject you don't touch. That's just something that they're not open about it.
Yeah.
They just don't talk about it.
Do you want to know what my sex talk was about?
I'm curious to know what it was.
It was pretty straightforward. It was don't get anybody pregnant that you don't want to get pregnant, and if you do, men up, marry the woman, raise a child, and that's it.
Very traditional.
Yeah, for sure. That was it, and that was like
Go out into the world, my son.
That's the word. Free to go.
that was it. That was the extent of my birds and the bees.
And yeah, I can see it. And I don't know if it's because I was a woman. Maybe that's why they never talked to me about it. Maybe, I don't know, maybe since you were a guy, maybe it was a lot easier for them to talk to you about it. But in me, you know, they never talked about it. That was something that we never brought up. Nevertheless, you never bring up any boyfriends. You know, it's never okay to, that's just not right. That's just something you don't talk about. So I think that's why a lot of women my age were married very young, because we were still living that very traditional Mexican culture where we didn't know much, you know? So, hey, we think we're in love. So this is what my mom did. This is what my grandma did. So it's time to marry, move in, and that's it. But now
Life.
that's life, you know, that's life.
Big separation between men and women in the Mexican culture that I saw when, because I didn't know, you know,
It was a shock for her.
I didn't know, I had no idea. And I went to his house to eat, and I'm just sitting at the table with everybody, not noticing that I'm the only woman at the table, and the other women and young girls are sitting on the side, and I'm telling his, you know, brother's little girls, come on up here, come on in. What are you waiting for?
We got room, go ahead.
Yeah, and I had no idea, and I'm sure they were just appalled and flabbergasted.
Yeah, you know, like that's an example, because I mean,
he didn't tell me anything about, I didn't know. How should I know that?
Well, yeah, you know, well, I mean, for me, it makes sense. Like, yeah, you know, like everybody come in.
The men always eat first.
And
right?
but it's one of the, yeah, it was just one of those things where it was so common that it just never dawned on me this is what's
because you grew up in it, so it's just expected of we all know this is how it is.
And then I went to another party, and all the women were just sitting by themselves, you know, really not even speaking to each other, just sitting on the outskirts of it, and
staring at each other.
Yeah, and the men are doing stuff, and I'm like, what is going on here? You know, like I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, it was actually bautismo.
Mm.
It was the first time that I actually took her to go meet my sisters.
Uh-huh.
I think I had my daughters
Yeah.
with
Oh
me.
yeah. I brought everybody with me, and it was
They were
baptism.
wondering too what was going on. They were little,
Yeah.
and they were like,
Yeah, and it's one of those things too. Like I said, it's I growing up in it and always going to the weddings, baptisms, birthdays,
We're
whatever.
just used to it.
Right. It was just like it was a detail that it just never dawned on me that would be a big important detail to mention. And then once we got there,
I probably look like an idiot.
well,
They're probably thinking, "Oh my God, what is this girl doing?" Like,
well, once we got there and she started asking me, it's like, well, why are these women sitting on this side and all the males are sitting on that side? And I was just kind of like, you know what? I never even realized that. I never even
Uh-huh.
thought about that. And so then I know from that experience myself, all the guys, all my cousins and my uncles, everybody was like, hey, you come over here and sit down.
Mm-hmm.
You
And
sit
she
down over
stays over here.
Yeah, she's gonna stay over there with your sisters, and they're gonna do whatever women are gonna do, and you're gonna come over here and sit down, and you're gonna hang out, and you're gonna chit chat with us because now you are a married man,
Man.
and so you have earned your spot in this group. And so I'm like sitting there with my brother-in-laws and my other family members, and I'm just like, do you guys want to go get a drink or something at the gas station, or do you guys like want to go somewhere else? And people are just like, no, just sit there, just do you want a beer? Like, no, I don't drink. They're like, oh, okay, my bad.
Well, that's another topic. That's a whole nother story right there.
Yeah. And then and I'm feeling guilty. I'm looking at my sisters and I'm like, do you need help? Do you need help like bringing the food out? Do you need help setting up the tables? Do you need help running to the grocery store to get you some ingredients or whatever? They're like, no, just sit down, it's fine. We got this. Enjoy yourself. And I'm looking at her and, she's helping them. And
yeah, but I can't speak Spanish.
yeah, and so then I'm just like, I found myself in a weird situation where like, I don't feel comfortable
just
sitting here looking at her.
Are serving you?
Yeah, like looking at her, knowing that she can communicate with them, and I don't want her to be so out of place that it kind of ruins all the experience of, I guess, meeting my family for the first time. And I actually just stood up and left the group of the guys, and I went over there to her, and I was like, what's going on, whatever. I talked to my sister, and she's like, oh no, Melissa's doing real great. She's doing real good. Just leave her alone. She's doing fine. And it's like, okay, but do you need me to tell her something? Because I know you're not communicating. She's like, oh no, she's good. We can communicate each other with fingers and pointing. You're fine. Just get out of here. And like that was it. And
yeah, what's odd about it is that because I grew up totally the opposite. So I grew up with very, very strong women in my family, like it wasn't even questioned. If you wanted to do something, you just did it. Like it was not questioned. It was, you did whatever you wanted, and all the women in my family, my aunts, they were, went to school and had good jobs and played, just did whatever they wanted to do. And it never dawned on me. I just didn't grow up like that. And it never even dawned on me that was what was happening, and how rude it was of me to tell those girls, come on up, Penny, come on, what are you waiting for, And I'm just like, oh boy, like they're not gonna think very good of me now.
And those are the things that the cycles I'm breaking with my kids.
Yeah.
Because everybody here is equal. We all cook, we all clean up after ourselves, we all have chores, we all work. So that's another thing that was not right in the eyes of family. Why are your boys cleaning? Why are they washing dishes? Because, they have to learn how to maintain after themselves. They're not going to have a woman after them all the time. And I tell my daughter the same thing. you work for what you want. You go and you can do whatever you want. There's nothing or nobody that's going to stop you. You want it, you go and get it. And I tell my kids because, like I said, for me, I think that's one of the things that was really, really hurtful. Once I got my college certificate, I was going to have my ceremony. And I invited my parents to come. And they didn't come because they were like, we never agreed you going back to college because now you have kids. And how are you going to leave your kids with the babysitter and you're out in college?
Mm-hmm.
So for them, it was a big no.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the things that I try to learn.
Oh no.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
Hmm. Let's see. Let's see if it'll come back again.
There she is.
Okay. You back?
We got lost again.
Yeah. Yeah. You were talking about how when you had your ceremony, you invited your parents and they didn't
They didn't come.
they didn't come because they did not approve of you.
Yes, they didn't come because they did not approve of me coming back, going through college, putting myself through college because it was not the right thing to do because now I had kids, and how dare I leave my kids out for somebody else to care for them while I'm.
Oh no.
Here we go.
Oh.
So
We're back.
what about your husband's mom and dad? Did they feel the same way? Uh-oh. Is it ours or is it hers?
I think it's on her side.
There you go. So what about your husband's mom and dad? Did they feel the same way?
They did. They are very into that Mexican culture, so we were battling with my parents and his parents. So that just made it twice as hard for us.
So were they telling him, why can't you get control of your wife?
Basically.
Because that's one thing
Yes.
I was talking to her about was that when when a woman marries, her mother-in-law tends to take over the raising of that woman into her official wife duties that her biological mother can no longer have over her, right?
Yes, and that's basically what happened to me because I left home very young. So everything else I learned was from my mother.
Mm-hmm.
And she was raised in the same environment my parents were raised. So it was really hard having to break that. It was very hard because we had everybody against us because we wanted, to better ourselves. We wanted to go out there and explore and do, just enjoy what, this country had to give us.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was against it. Everybody was against it. So that was hard. That was really, really hard.
For me, and obviously, watching you grow up, through, because you're older than I am, and watching you grow up, and that one point, I can single this out. Okay, the one event that stands out in my mind, that told me that your husband, your family, that you are no longer traditional Mexican culture by the whole definition of the pros and the cons of it. Every year, everybody from our town, El Rancho, right? For them, vacation is to go back and visit and stay there for months at a time,
Yeah.
sometimes. and it's always expected now out of you. Now, all of us, you know, the firstborn generations, and all of them after that, and even just us, you know, the immigrants that still, you know, born over there, but were raised over here, we're always expected to just go back as vacation.
Mm-hmm.
That was our vacation.
Yeah. And I saw you and your family, I think it was at Disney World.
Oh,
And
yes. Yes.
that was, for me, that was the one event that really stands out in my mind that was like, okay, they broke free out of that tradition. Like, that is really cool. Like, watching somebody else, you know, that I'm so close to, not just, you know, in age, but, you know, we have a lot of, we always sit kind of chit chat anyways, you know, when we
Yes.
together. You know, having another person that I'm close to and that has experienced some of the things that I've experienced growing up. So watching them not be in Mexico for their vacation. Oh, so, okay.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah. So I was saying that, you know, that event, watching you guys be in Disneyland instead of in Disneyland instead of being down in Mexico, that was the biggest thing in my mind at that point.
And how'd she do that?
Yeah, it was
How
just,
did they get away?
well, the first thought that came into my mind was like, okay, either A, they did something really, really bad that they don't want to be around, you know, all these
The
other
norms.
people. Yeah, or B, like, you guys just don't give a shit and you're just going off and doing your own thing, which, you know, in my mind I was like, I hope it's B, that you guys just do whatever the hell you want and you go and, you know, you guys go do you.
And you know, it's funny you say because that we fall in that B category because a lot of people, you know, close to us have told us that you guys just don't give a. I was like, I mean,
Yeah.
at the end, you know, it's like I tell my husband, it's you and I and our kids.
Yeah.
And this is what makes us happy. This is what keeps us going. This is motivation to us. So.
And you kind of hit the nail on the head right there when you said that you told your husband, you know, it's you and I and the kids, where traditionally it's us.
Everybody else.
Yeah, it's like
Yes.
when people say my family, they are referring to their mom, their dad, their grandparents, their nieces, their
Everybody.
uncles, aunts, right? And
Yes.
as far as in the American culture, when you say my family, you are referring to your wife and your kids.
Wife. Yes.
You're not
yes.
referring to your own parents or the grandparents or anything like that. And
Yes.
and like that was hard. I know for me that was hard to make peace with.
Break from.
Yes.
Yes.
Break
break.
break away from that definition of family, but also make peace with that. Because when I first started doing that, I felt extremely guilty for that. I felt extremely guilty and I felt like I was betraying my family. Like I was no longer part of them. Now it's us versus everybody else. And
I can see that because that's the mentality that you grew up with. That your spouse is not your priority. It's your family. It's your parents. It's your grandparents. It's the uncles. It's what they think and what they tell you. That's the way you're going to live your life. And if you decide to do different, you're a traitor. You're a backstabber. This is not the way we do it.
Yeah. And, you know, and a lot of times they may not even say those things to you, but it's how they react and how they
react.
Yeah.
Most of the time they won't. It's the reaction that you receive after.
Yes. I mean, for one, like, I'm not invited to every single birthday party anymore.
Don't feel bad.
You know? Yeah. It's like, every once in a while, you know, like when I sit down and I call my sisters and my other family members, I'm like, hey, you know, how you guys are doing? And they're like, oh, did you know so-and-so is having a birthday party this weekend? Are you coming down? Did you receive your invitation? It's like, no, I wasn't even aware that they was having a birthday party. You know, and at first that made my feelings hurt a lot because I grew up being very close to a lot of my nieces and nephews. And then now as an adult, it's like I don't have that relationship anymore. Um, and so that used to hurt my feelings a lot, like you were saying earlier. But it came to a point where it's like that's not my problem. That's their problem.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't want me to be a part of their kids' life in that sense, then I'm fine with that. It sucks, but I'm okay with it. But if they want to be part of my life and want to be involved with me, and they can call me, they can visit me whenever they want, I am all for that. And I've always told all of my little nieces and nephews, and they're younger than me, like, you guys are always more than welcome to call me whenever you want. Like, here's my phone number. You guys have social media, so there's no excuse that you can't get a hold of me.
That you can't, yes.
Yeah, like, don't be afraid to get a hold of me and just talk to me. Like, if you have questions that you don't want to ask your parents, I'm here for you. You know, if you have a situation to where your parents won't understand because of that culture difference, like, I'm here to help you.
Mm-hmm.
I may not know the answer, but I can help you find the answer. Um, and that's kind of been the biggest, um, aspect of that. Um, but like you were saying, it's so different in those categories, and
It is very different.
it's things like you said, like, we grew up in them so much. We were so much a part of that we just never
It
thought
was
of.
normal to us.
Yeah, it was normal to us
It was
until it was
normal.
no longer normal to us.
Yeah, because see me, when I first moved in with my husband, I lived by that Mexican culture. You know, he worked, I went to school. Um, but everything, even my parents were like, if he lets you come, you can come visit us. If he doesn't let you be around us, you can't be around us.
Yeah.
So uh, it wasn't until I started socializing with other people, and I started opening up to other people that were not in my same culture. And they were like, what? That's crazy. Why
Hmm.
are you doing that? That's not right. So that is when that was like an eye opener to me. Like, wait a minute, that's true. That's not right.
Hmm.
Because I mean, in our culture, you won't find a man cooking in the kitchen or picking up his plate, and that is totally okay. But it wasn't until I went out there into the real world that I was like, wait a minute, this is not right.
Yeah.
This,
Well,
this is
you know,
not okay.
yeah, talking about that, from, I mean, my point of view, when I left my house, or my parents' house, I was a fully grown adult. I mean, I think I was 21 when I officially left their house.
Mm.
Um, so I'm now living by myself. And the first couple months, I kid you not, like, I would literally walk into my apartment and I was already expecting food to be on the table. Like, I'm out and about. I'm coming home from work. I'm hanging out with my buddies, whatever. And I'm like, it's time for me to go home, guys. I'll see you guys later. And I'm like, I'm not gonna stop, get a burger. I'm not gonna do this because I've got food at home. And then once I open the door, in my mind, I'm like, there's gonna be like fresh tortillas made, all this and that. Like, I
A
can't
nice
wait.
cooked warm meal.
Yeah. And then I would walk in, and it was just like, oh
Uh,
shit, like, I have to cook dinner now.
mm-hmm.
And that learning curve was so infuriating to me, because it was like, how was it that my parents allowed me to not have this skill?
They didn't prepare you.
They didn't prepare me for that part of life. Like, how was it that they allowed me to go on my whole adulthood, like growing up in their own household, and never expect me to learn how to cook or clean after myself? And then, cleaning, that was another thing. Like, even to this day, I still battle with that. Like, it's such an ingrained habit, if you want to put it that way, that I have to clean after myself. but it's kind of weird though, because like I have no problem cleaning after myself when I'm working outside. Like I'm working in cars, doing whatever it is. I can do that. No problem. I won't even question it and I won't even argue with it. I even get mad when I see things being out of place. But like when I'm inside of the house, there's that constant struggle every once in a while where like I wake up and I may see something that needs to be picked up on the floor or on the couch or something out of place, and it's like that'll get taken care of, and I just kind of go along my way, and I don't think about it anymore.
When
And
he comes home and it's still there.
yeah, when I come
And
home,
it's
it's still there, and it's like,
It's not
okay,
going anywhere.
yeah, it's fine. It'll be fine. Don't worry. And then when I get called out on it, it's like, oh shit, you're right. Like my bad. I you know, I didn't realize that I was, doing that.
Mhm.
And that for me was a big learning curve.
Well, because also wouldn't your mother come and, bring
Yeah.
you food and
Yeah. So
clean
then,
the house?
so at first, yeah, when I first moved out, they would drive like an hour and a half, like every other weekend, and she would bring me 2 weeks worth of food.
Yeah,
You know,
that's typical grandma.
yeah. And she would be like, "I don't want you to cook. All you have to do is just put this in the microwave and put it at this time, and you have all of your meals set for like the next 2 weeks until I come back." And at first I'm like, hell yeah, man, this is cool.
Mhm.
I can just put it in the microwave, whatever, it's there, homemade food kind of thing. And then like the second time she came by, she said, "Oh, your apartment is looking kind of messy. Just hang tight, and I'll fix it for you." And in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, my parents are coming down. I'm gonna go take them out to eat. I'm gonna go take them explore the city. She spent 4 hours cleaning my whole apartment, decorating it.
You basically just went from a room in your house to another room.
Yeah,
Her still taking care of
her
you.
still taking care of me. And like the big moment for me when I realized like this is not right, like this is not normal. I walked in to the bathroom and there she was scrubbing the toilet, and I'm like, "What are you doing, Mom? Like get off the floor." And she's like, "Oh no, I'm almost done. Just go back and watch TV with your father. I'm almost done." And I felt so bad. And after that, I actually forbid them from coming to visit me. I told them, like, if you're going to come and visit to me, it's because you are going to come down and visit with me and hang out with me, not baby me.
Mhm.
And if you cannot do that, then I need for you to please just stay home. Like, I will come and visit you instead, but I don't want you to come down here to visit me just so that you can baby me and take care of me in that sense. And that's what's happened.
That's one of the hardest things for me too, that I had to learn to, I guess, step back or away from, because once, we settled into life and we're working and my husband and I are working, and, we're able to come back home and visit my mom and dad, I want to take them out, like you say, look, Mom, look, Mom and Dad, there's so much out here that we can do, go out for a dinner, go out for a movie, or let's go visit this place. And it's like, they don't want to. They
feel
I don't
guilty.
know if it's that they find it offensive, or I don't know what it is,
Oh.
but I want them to come out and I want to take them places, but they don't want to. They just want to stay home. And I'm like, so at first it would really hurt my feelings, but like I said, I had to learn, this is the way they were raised, like grandma.
Mm-hmm.
I have a hard time with that, because now with my mother, she babies my kids a lot. So she cooks for them. If she made something for dinner and one of my kids didn't like it, she's gonna make what they want, But my kids know that grandma can do that, but you're not gonna come home and have that done. It's
Mm-hmm.
this is what is served for dinner, and this is what is gonna be eaten. And if you don't like it, well, hey, by all means, you can fix yourself something else. So at times, it's hard because she's used to baby them, like you say, you know, everything they want, it's given, especially if it's boys. Everything is given to them, you know. But there's times when I want to get mad, and there's times when I want to say something, but then I think back and say, this is all they know. This is all they know. This is what they were raised to be. In their head, this is it. You know, this is what a woman is raised to do. This is my responsibility, and this is what I have to do. And that's it. You know, they don't have to worry about, I have to go out and work, I have to go do this, I have to do that. No, they're just focused on, I have to cook for them and I have to clean, and this is my job.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard. It's hard because as much as I don't like that, and I don't bring that over home with my kids, but then, you know, I have to respect that that's how she grew up. You know what I mean? So it's hard. It's hard to battle everything because,
Yes.
like with me, like I said, you know, I'm always out working. If I need something, I get up and do it. If I need that, I go and do it. I'm not expecting somebody to do it for me.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
you know, in their eyes, it's bad. In their eyes, it's, wow, what do you mean you got up and you went here? You went to have lunch with your friends? How dare you go have lunch with your friends? What about your household? You know, the husband's going to be here and dinner's not made. And it's like, oh, you know, we are both working. We can both work on having dinner, you know, making dinner. It's really hard. It's really, really hard breaking the cycle because you're always being pointed at, you know, you're always being pointed at. And you really, really have to grow some tough skin.
You do. Yeah,
Because if
you
not,
definitely have to grow some tough skin.
yes.
Um, I mean, you know, like in my situation, I'm not around my family for a
Mm-hmm.
reason. And but even then it's been so ingrained in me that I criticize myself for that. For some of the most benign and asinine things that are happening that I grew up already expecting. You know, like you said, like for me being a male, things were much easier. They were just kind of given to me. I was treated as royalty, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And for some time as a little kid growing up, I honestly thought that I had some royal blood. Because everywhere I would go, they'd be like, oh, you're so and so son, come on down. Are you hungry? Are you thirsty? Here, you want to spend the night? Oh, don't worry, we don't pay for
We
anything.
got you.
We will pay for you. Yes. Oh, these are my daughters, A, B, and C. You know, like, yeah. and and it's like, damn, like, do I have some royal family? Like, is that you know? Okay, I guess that's expected out of me. I won't say no, but okay. And then like, but going back to saying like, I'm criticizing myself. It's where, like you mentioned, you go off and if you need something, you do it. You're
Mm-hmm.
not gonna wait for your husband to do it. If you're able to do that. And I know that's one thing that uh, sometimes, like when we're doing projects around the house, um, it's like, okay, I need to get these things done. And whether because I'm at work or something else happens that I can't get to them, and I'll come home and she's already done. She's already taken care of some of those things. And it's like that hurts my feelings. Like it hurts my feelings because in my head, because it's been so ingrained, it's like, that's not her job. Like, that's my job. And I fail as being the man of the house, as being her husband, the caretaker. Like, I fail to do that. So that makes me less of a man. And I know in the beginning in our relationship, that was for me one of the biggest things that I had to internally battle with. And then after a while, just talking with her, so she's like, if you're not going to be here, I'll just do it. Like, it's like, what's the big deal? I'm not going to just stand around and twiddle my thumbs when I know that I can just go ahead and finish it or do that, so that, I know that's been a big thing for me. Like I said, and I know better, but it's been so ingrained in me that I just criticize myself for it. And I may go for like a couple hours, oh, just, talking to myself like, you're useless. What, how could you let that happen? You should be better than that. And you need to go in there and you need to tell her to never do that again. And
But you say it's ingrained in you. I don't know if it's ingrained in you or it's just something that is carried along, because I have a child, and he he carries on that Mexican culture very well. He's like, you want me to cook? Yes, you're old enough to come in the kitchen and start taking some cooking lessons. It's like offensive to him. And I'm like, wait a minute, child, you know, we're all equal here. We're all the same here. You're going to learn how to cook, you know?
Mhm.
And you know what I noticed? There was times when somebody will be over and I'm like, hey, you forgot, take out the trash or whatever. He's like, and you want me to do it now? They're going to see me. And what's the problem? Because you're a boy, you don't want them to see you, or what's the problem here? So I don't know if that carries along, because
No,
I
no,
don't raise my kids that way. My kids are, that's your chore, that's what you're going to do it.
yeah,
But I have one that he's very self-conscious of, they're watching me.
Yeah.
They're going to see me do this. There's nothing wrong. Nothing's going to happen. Just go on about your business, do it and move on,
no, it's yeah, that's a big influence that he may have picked up from like the grandparents, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because I know from my brothers, okay, my oldest brother, like he pulled me aside one time, like when I first got together with Melissa, and he found out about it, and we happened to be in the same room. He pulled me aside and he's like, this is what I expect out of you. This is what you're supposed to be doing. You better cut that crap that you're doing over there with, doing sports and all this other crap that you're doing. It's like, that's not a man thing. You better take care of this and this and this. And if you can't do that, then I don't want to see your face. And it's like,
Pretty much.
I'm like, all right,
Pretty much.
like, thanks for your hospitality, but I'm out. And and it was just kind of like, he's looking at me like,
It's a shocker.
wait a
It's a
minute,
shocker
like,
to having to hear that from your own family, from your own blood, that this is what is expected, and if not, deuce.
yeah, yeah.
It's hard.
Well, when
It's
I turned the
hard.
tables on him, I was like, yeah, okay, fair enough. Thanks for your hospitality, but I'm out of here. I'm not gonna waste no more of your time. Then he kind of was like, wait a minute, whoa, hold on, let's talk this out. I was like, what's there to talk about, man? Like, you already gave me the two options, two ultimatums. I don't agree with one, and I'd rather take the other one. So,
Mhm.
like, let's just call that, all right, our piece. You do your thing, I do my thing, and we'll call each other.
And we're good. Mhm.
Yeah, we'll call each other during the holidays, and we're set.
We're set. Yes, that's. I think with me, that's what I had to do too. I had to learn how to let go. It's hurtful, but I don't want my kids around that. Even
Yeah.
for birthday parties, us Mexicans, we invite everybody and their mama.
Yeah.
So it was my kid's birthday, but I was not enjoying it.
Yeah.
I was not enjoying it. It was so many people over. I mean, I want to say it still ends up being an adult party, but now at least I have the most, if it's my kid's birthday, I always try to ask, okay, kids, so who would you like to have over?
Mhm.
It could be like, well, I want to have my friends from school. Okay, well, we'll invite your friends from school. And I've had the problem where a lot of family, cousins, uncles get hurt because they're like, oh, you had a party and you didn't invite me.
Yeah.
Well, that was my son's birthday, and that's what he wanted. I'm giving them that, because I, growing up, didn't have that option. This is what it's going to be, and this is tradition, and this is what you're having. And I don't want my kids to grow up like that. I want them to grow up and think, hey, man, I got options. I don't like this. We can do this. And it's ultimately it's their birthday.
Yeah.
It was hard breaking that cycle where they started to want to have birthday parties. like at the trampoline parks,
Mm-hmm.
or just random places where, you know, we couldn't bring in beer or, you know, and it was like, wait a minute, so you're having a party, but we can't drink? Yeah, because this is my son's birthday today, so we can drink after, or you can come over to the after party at the house, or you can come back tomorrow. But right now, it's my son's party, and this is what we're having. And a lot of people were offended, and they weren't okay because that's not tradition. But it's like, that's what my kid wants, and that's what makes him happy, you know?
Yeah.
And by far, yes, I was criticized because you're having pizza for a birthday party. We don't eat pizza. We want tortillas.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
You know, it's funny, but those are just some crazy things that,
Well, even
you know.
things like that, like, you know, I mean, I know for a fact that I'm viewed as the uh, probably the most Americanized. As aside, yeah, I would say I'm the most Americanized out of my siblings. Even my younger, you know, brother, born and raised here in the United States, he still carries on a lot of the, you know, traditional, typical, you know, Mexican male traditions, I guess you can say. And
Mm-hmm.
I can see that inner conflict with him every single time I talk to him, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, I always try to, you know, just try to mentor him in a way that's positive towards him. But for me, I feel like I'm the most Americanized out of my siblings. And uh, one time, this is before, you know, we even got together, was that it was I think it was a baptism. I think and one of my brothers invited me over. He said, we're gonna have a baptism, and you know, whatever. He's like, but we're not gonna have hamburgers and we're not gonna have pizzas. So just get your shit together and you're gonna eat whatever's gonna be cooked. Understand? And I was like, okay. Do you want me to bring anything? And they're like, you don't think we have the things necessary that to have the party? Like, how dare you ask me that question? It's like, that's an insult, bro. Like, you don't think I've been busting my ass at work that I can afford this? It's like, no, I was just trying to be polite because it's a polite thing to do. I get invited to a party, and would you like me
This
to
is what
bring
you, yeah.
something? Yeah. Would you like me to
Yeah, you
bring a
know
drink?
what? Yes, that's true. We I think in our culture, we try too much to, I don't know, impress maybe.
Yeah.
You always want to impress. You always want to have the best, you know?
Yeah.
So, like I said, at first, I had my kids' parties and it was nothing but a kids' party, you know? And now I'm like, hey, that's what he wants. That's what he's gonna get. He wants pizza, we'll have pizza. He wants to go to Jumping World, we'll go to Jumping World.
Mhm.
And it's always somebody that's gonna have to say, you're just gonna have that? Are you serious? Hey, man, I mean, you're gonna get criticized anyway, right? So that's what the kid wants.
Yeah, that's for sure. That is very, very true. Uh, but well, I was gonna say if there's anything else that you would like to add before we kind of log off.
I think we pretty much covered
Yeah.
everything. Yeah, I think we pretty much covered everything. Yes.
Awesome. Well, before we log off officially, is there anything like you know, shout outs or anything you want to say?
Yes, let's see, you kind of caught me off guard here, but I guess I just want to
Anything you want to
everybody in
advertise?
general, you know, just reach for your goal. Don't give up. Just keep striving, keep going. Uh, Work hard, play hard. That's our motto. Advertising, yes, I would like to advertise. My husband and I, we run a construction business. We do window and door installations in Texas. We're based out of Texas. So any of you Texas listeners out there, Escalante's Contracting, you can find us. We do any new construction, remodel, and we do commercial and residential.
All right, there you go, guys. So for your household needs, give him a call, give him a shout out. All right. Well, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time and talking to us, and giving us a little bit of your history, and what it's been like being a woman growing up in the United States, but also being part of a traditional Mexican household. You know, well, with that being said, again, thank you so much, and
Thank you guys for having me. I enjoyed the interview. Wish you guys the best of luck.
Thank you.
You too.
And like I said, this has been In the Fray. And so the name In the Fray, FYI, it means in the fight. Okay, so
Cool.
you don't turn away from the struggles, you face them head on.
Face them. Yes.
So that's one of the reasons why we chose the name In the Fray. So we are in the struggle,
Very
we're in
good.
the fight. So again, once again, guys, my name is Edgar.
And I'm Melissa.
And this has been In the Fray. Bye.